New signs from the West Coast give hope that new infections may be leveling off. Several states announced this week that they are sending ventilators to New York since their need is now less urgent. A little over 1,000 ventilators will be dispatched from California, Oregon, and Washington state. And according to several reports, a field hospital in Seattle is being dismantled and will soon be returned to FEMA so it can be deployed to another state with more significant coronavirus needs. Washington was one of the earliest and hardest hit states by the pandemic, seeing over 9,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases and nearly 400 deaths.
So, Willie, we're going to be talking about how these expert projections are going to go down. But about a week ago, I tweeted out, looking at the death rate in California, looking at the infection rate in California, specifically San Francisco, because from the beginning I thought New York and San Francisco were going to be the hardest hit. I think most people believed that. But the numbers just weren't coming out of California. So I said, wait, are we going to really get to 240,000 or even 100,000 cases? And one of the reasons I questioned that was because of what an incredible job the governor of California has done from the very beginning, the mayor of San Francisco, Governor Jay Inslee. They all acted quickly. And so that's why I think in a large part, one of the reasons, if we don't get to 100,000 to 240,000 by August, and again, I must say this, in the first wave, because the pandemic of 1918 had two waves, but in the first wave, in large part, it's because of the great leadership of those West Coast governors and West Coast mayors.
I was texting with an emergency room doctor from Seattle just last night. It's funny you mentioned that. And he said, our leaders are to be applauded. This is not a political actor. He has no political skin in the game. He's literally just running in and out of the ER every day. Because remember, Washington State, it's easy to forget now, was sort of the canary in the coal mine for the United States. When that one nursing home in Kirkland, Washington, when 37 people died, we said, wait a minute, what's going on with coronavirus? And from that moment forward, Washington State took this very seriously, and they now, as you pointed out, are shipping their ventilators to other states. They're taking down a field hospital, much the way that New York is building a field hospital in Central Park. Seattle had built one near the football and baseball complex where the Seahawks and the Mariners play. They're taking it down now because they don't think they're going to need it. And that was because they took those early steps. One thing to look at, though, Joe, is today we're going to see this jobless number. Again, every Thursday we've been getting this jaw-dropping number. It's going to be worse than last week. Remember, we saw 10 million over the last 2 weeks unemployment claims. This week is going to be worse. Now, why do I bring that up? Because, as Jonathan Lemire and others have pointed out, the president is entertaining the idea of opening up portions of the economy again. What that means exactly, we don't know yet, but we know he wants to do that. If he sees another massive unemployment number, which he's going to see, there's going to be increased pressure from people around him to say, hey, we've got to get the economy started again. We're cratering here. He may feel that pressure, and that's the danger. If he decides that he does want to open up parts of the economy, then we could see this outbreak all over again.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.